You're listening to the Tony Steuer Podcast, where Tony interviews financial literacy advocates who are changing the conversation on money, so you can catch up on the latest trends and ideas in the world of financial literacy and education.
Welcome to the Tony Steuer Podcast. I'm pleased to be joined today by Namrata Singh. Namrata is the founder of Arthasadhana. I do try to say that. What's the name of your firm, Namrata?
It is Arthasadhana Investments.
Fantastic. I thought I'd give it a try and I didn't make it. So everyone, in this episode, we'll be discussing the importance of empowerment. Namrata, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Oh.
So Arthasadhana is a Sanskrit name, actually. It's a word in Sanskrit.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what the word means and what it represents?
Artha basically means financial freedom, and sadhana means a way of attaining it. So it literally represents what I do, helping people attain financial freedom.
Well, that's fantastic. And I think that's so important is, that people get an idea of who you are and what you do and how you help them. And you can do that right away with your name. And I think that's powerful for, members of our audience who are in financial planning or provide services to clients, is that you can do something like that where people are going to know who you are and what you stand for and how you help them. So I love that. So, let's back up a minute. And, this is a question I always ask everybody to start the show is, what is your origin story? Why did you get into financial planning?
Okay. So, it's a slightly long story and slightly, not a very happy start of the story, but it makes me who I am. So it's a personal story, basically making me literally who I am and what I do. So when I was 13, I lost my dad. He was a scientist. And, my mom, who was also a scientist, and my brother was 9 years old. So the three of us were the surviving members in the family. And unfortunately, in India, personal finance is generally not spoken about. Women generally don't take the lead in talking about personal finance. It's changing now, but back then, some 25 years back, it did not happen. All financial decisions were taken by my dad, and we lost him very, very suddenly. He suddenly had a massive cardiac arrest, and we lost him in few hours. So my mom obviously took very, very conservative decisions in terms of where to invest, what to do with money, and things like that. Some investments, again, didn't prove to be the best of investments, probably giving us lower returns than fixed deposits. But then again, the reason why it happened was personal finance is not taught in school. In fact, even now as we speak, personal finance is not taught anywhere across the globe. Probably, I'm not sure about any institution teaching personal finance. And that's where most mistakes happen. I am blessed because I learned these lessons very, very early on in life. Again, I was blessed to have a maternal grandfather who kept on telling me every time that you should never get into debt, you should never take loans and things like that when I was very, very small. I don't know why he used to say all this, but he told me that. In fact, my mom kept on reinforcing these beliefs as we were growing up, that never spend more than what you earn. Ensure you're saving a percentage, ensure you're donating a percentage. And that's what we continue doing. And that's what helps me to be who I am, literally. And then that propelled my journey into personal finance, helping others to ensure that they never face problems that probably we faced a couple of years back. Ensuring that they have the plan in place so that, their journeys are better and safer rather than having, to think about what's happening, what to do, what not to do. Again, if you have somebody who has your best interests in mind telling you what is to be done, I think that really makes all the difference. And that's what I stand for. That's what my business stands for.
Well, that's a fascinating story. And I think, what's so important, and I think this even ties into your firm name, is that what your grandfather taught you is, principles rather than specifics, rather than focusing on, well, when you grow up, you're going to have an investment portfolio that's 60% stock and 40% bonds, and make sure you have high yield bonds. Is, that there were principles that you could easily follow and understand. And they did, I think that probably shaped you as a financial planner, to help people to really listen to the bigger issues that clients are trying to solve. So I think that's fascinating. And I think it's good takeaways for other people, not only those of us who are in financial planning, but anybody who works with a customer, like, what's your customer trying to solve? How can we help them? And I think we don't ask those questions enough, is like, how do we help you? How do we help you achieve what you want to achieve rather than the product that we're selling?
That's the first question generally I ask. How do I help you? What is it that I can help you solve? So that's how most of my conversations start, literally. So see, if I have to go back in history, I have never taken any loans. I rarely use credit cards. And I generally help my clients plan their finances and, ensure that they achieve their dreams, aspirations, retirement goals, children education goals through proper planning rather than, taking ad hoc loans, which hurt them. So that's something that I continue doing. And then I have personally not taken any loans in my life so far. I discourage even my husband from doing that. So ensuring that I practice what I preach. I have literally, my company is bootstrapped. I basically have built my company from scratch. I started it during COVID. Not the best of times, but I am so grateful that I started it. Probably COVID and the circumstances propelled me to move out of my comfort zone and do what I really wanted to do for years.
That is so awesome that you're doing what you want to do, is because so many people go through life and they do a career that they're not driven by. You and I were talking about this pre-show, is that if you like what you're doing and you're inspired by it, it's a lot easier to do it.
Absolutely. So see, I mean, if something is painful, like a lot of people I know, when they go to work, they're not happy, they crib about it, but still end up going to work more because, they have some financial obligations to meet, some loans that they have to repay and things like that. But, if you carefully plan, or ensure that you're saving a percentage for the heydays, that's what can literally help you. My savings literally helped me to start my own business. I was not dependent on anybody when I took this decision.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about client empowerment. That's one of the things you talk about. Is why is helping your clients be empowered so important?
I have, as I said, I have seen my mom going through a phase in life where I wish somebody was there to help. And that's what got me into personal finance. Even now, when I see clients struggling with, financial decisions. Because say, for example, somebody who's an engineer or a scientist or a doctor, their core competency is something which is completely different and not looking at money matters. So if I can help them with that, keeping again their best interests in mind, I think a load on their head is reduced, which really encourages me to do what I do. And somehow I get my happiness from that, when I help them solve a problem or when I help them achieve a goal that they were looking forward to.
Yeah, and I think that ties into what we were talking about earlier, is helping clients, meet their goals that they set. That's what I think, everybody is looking for, is, meeting their goals rather than, the specifics. Of course, the specifics are very important to meet their goals, but if you don't help a client meet their goal, then they're not going to be happy. They're going to be calling you. say, hey, what's going on? And so I think that's fantastic. And I think as part of that is you also talk about investor centric and being focused on the investor. And so, share with us, why is an investor centric approach so important?
See, in today's day and age, especially in personal finance, unfortunately, a lot of people are driven in the industry by the commissions they make or the fees they make. But I think what is missing is the personal touch. And at times, what is also missing is empathy. When you're standing in somebody else's shoes. See, I am sitting here in a position where I understand things. If I can help that person make the right decision, I think I'll have a great sleep at night. that's the main thing. So my objective is very, very simple. If I can help this person solve a problem, a financial problem, a problem which I understand well, but the person I'm talking to or my client who doesn't understand well, it is a fiduciary responsibility that I have to ensure that I take the best decisions. Obviously, explaining everything while we do it, simplifying everything. Finance is not easy, again, and hence not many people understand it clearly. So breaking it into very, very simple language. So even if I drop dead tomorrow and somebody else is talking to them, they know what they should look at. So that's also something I do, that whenever I'm talking about products per se, I am literally breaking them down to very, very simple language, and also telling them don'ts, things which they should not do when they get into investment decisions, so that it's a guide that they can follow in the long run. So even when I do the reviews with my clients, I ensure that I look at do's as well as don'ts. So and see, again, investors being investor centric, I think it's a requirement for the business, for long-term growth of the business. As long as I'm thinking more about the client than about myself, I think I'm doing a good job.
I need to write that down. Think more about the client than yourself, is because I think people, it ties into what we were talking about, is that's so important, is, that returning to the client, listening to the client. But the other thing you said that, I think is so important, and this ties into also what you said earlier about financial literacy, is that breaking down products into simple language, speaking the language that our clients speak. And even other advisors, if you're talking to, like for me, I don't know much about ESG investing. I get the principles of it, but it's investing, across the board is not my specialty. And that we don't even break it down enough for people in the industry, let alone for people who are not in the industry. So, I think that's such important to remember, that our clients don't know the basic words. They don't know what a yield is. They don't know what a diversification is. They may not understand compounding interest. And that if you don't explain those words in a way and concepts in a way that they can understand, they're constantly going to be struggling with the advice and not following the advice of the planner and making financial progress towards their goals. So I love that you're doing that. I think that's awesome.
Even tax implications in our country, where the tax structure is not as simple, because every product has a different tax structure. And then see, I'm more concerned about women, thanks to my personal history, because if you look at actuarial science, women will end up living longer than men. And in our country, even as we speak, majority women are dependent on their brothers, the father, or the spouse for taking financial decisions. But unfortunately, there would be a day for a majority of them wherein they would be burdened of taking these decisions. So the sooner you start learning about these things, about personal finance, the better off you are. Because see, again, the industry is filled with all kinds of people. We don't know who has your best interest in mind and who doesn't have your best interest in mind. But if you are empowered, if we have a mechanism to empower you so that you have all the right information to take the right decisions, irrespective of whom you're dealing with, you would be able to understand what is right for you and what is not right for you. So that's my objective in life.
Well, and that's awesome. It's a mission that I share with you, is And again, it ties back to what you were talking about earlier with financial literacy in schools, helping people to be empowered. And I think that's how you could stand out as an advisor, is people recognize advisors across the board, with any financial service product, those who are trying to help people meet their challenges and talking to them about them, and the challenges that they're facing, rather than being product first. Nobody wants to say, hey, you need to buy this insurance product, rather than saying, well, let's take a look and see what you need. The United States, I don't know in India if they do this, but they keep talking about how many people don't have a life insurance policy. Instead of asking the question is like,
do you need it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
do you
that
need it?
really is a question.
Do you really need it? Do you really need it? I mean, that's a question. So somebody who's extremely well-to-do, do you really need life insurance? I mean, is a question. I at times I've told people you don't need it.
Yeah, that's 100%. So one of the things I want to make sure we talk about is, and you start to touch on it, is what is different for women in financial services and for financial planning?
I think the number of women taking the leap or, getting into financial planning is still very, very small. Even when I go to meetings, physical meetings, as they have started now, I am generally outnumbered by men, right? And hugely outnumbered by men. So I think more women need to get into this field to bring the heart into the business, I feel. And that's what, of course, see, there needs to be a balance. Right now, it's not balanced. It's like 85% men and probably 15% women. So that needs to at least go to 60-40, if not 50-50. 50-50 is really, really optimistic. But yeah, I really want 50-50 probably by the time, I die. It should happen.
And it should be 50-50, I mean, women make up 50% of the world population. So why aren't women 50% of the financial advisory community? And
see, in our country,
we have a long way to go.
In our country, anyways, majority of the workforce, even educated women are not part of the workforce. So that's a big challenge that we are fighting internally in the country. So the government, institutions, they're trying their best to, bring women back to the workforce. So there are a lot of agencies who are working towards, doing best for women. Because once, probably when I also became a mother, I took a career break for 1.5 years, but I was very lucky because I started getting job offers and I got back. But and then again, I was studying while I was on break. I was completing a certification while I was on break. But it's important that we help others as well. Probably I was lucky; I had good mentors around who kept on talking to me about what I can do and what I can't. But I think everybody has to be as lucky. All other women have to be as lucky. I have a support system, which works for me. So when I'm not home, I know my child is taken care of. I'm generally not in the kitchen. So these are things which need to be taken care of. And I think I'm lucky to have a family who's extremely supportive. So even now I continue to study again because our profession is such that we need to keep on upgrading ourselves so that we can continue adding value to our clients. So a supportive family definitely really, really helps. But unfortunately, the mindsets still need some tweaking, and I'm sure we'll get there soon.
Well, yeah, you're 100% right. And I think that part of it too is recognizing, I know in the States, it's one of the issues, and you brought it up as well, is recognizing that there needs to be flexibility built in for women because women are oftentimes the primary child caregivers or taking care of older parents. And so their needs, the needs are a little bit different to help women succeed. But as you point out, it's about mentorship. It's about more than just saying, well, we're going to hire women. It's about helping women succeed in the business. And that's oftentimes the critical thing is like, well, we're going to hire 50% women, but we're not going to give them any support. And then we wonder why the women aren't successful, at what they're doing. So, I love what you're talking about, and it's a challenge. And for those who are listening, is you guys know that I'm part of Females in Finance, and that's something as an organization we're working on because it is such an important issue.
So if you look at what's happened post-COVID as well, if you look at statistics, the number of women who have dropped out post-COVID is alarming. The reason being, in a country like ours, the help or the domestic helps who were there to back you up when you were out at work, that structure completely failed because you were in a lockdown, people were not allowed to move. So most of the, helping requirements fell on the women. Again, I was very lucky. Even during COVID, It did not fall on me. But that's not the case with majority women, unfortunately. And it's not easy. It's not easy managing the kitchen, the baby, and work. It's really, really difficult. I admire women who do that. And there are a lot of them who do that beautifully, but it is not an easy job.
No, taking care of a baby is definitely not an easy job. That's a full-time job,
Correct.
So yeah, I have full admiration for people who, and single parents. So, I want to ask you one other question before we wrap up, and that is, why is it important to be focused on your own personal journey?
I think, personal journeys, focusing on your personal journey is interlinked with personal finance. The word personal finance, I think, is personal. Most people, the mistakes most people do is they start emulating their family and friends, in terms of products they end up buying or, the services they end up taking. And what is right for me may be completely wrong for you because our risk appetites may be very, very different depending on the circumstances that we have been brought up in. So our willingness to take risk and the ability to take risk is different for each and every individual. There is no one size fit all in personal finance. And hence it is very, very important that, decisions are taken based on personal circumstances and not on, your friend's circumstances or somebody else's circumstances. So very, very critical to be focused on your personal journey and taking decisions based on what is right for you and not just because your neighbor is doing it or some friend is doing it.
Oh, yeah. I'm just laughing, because it's like somebody, will talk about something like Bitcoin and it's like, why are you talking about Bitcoin? It's interesting, but is Bitcoin actually going to help you meet your goals? Or is it just the big thing to talk about is, Bitcoin's right for some people, but for most people, it's not the main focus.
Right.
So, as we wrap up what is your number one tip on being financially prepared on financial wellness?
It reminds me of a quote from a book that our life is full of surprises and we should be ready to face those surprises. Those surprises can be shocks at times, but if we are prepared in terms of a emergency fund, a good health insurance policy, a good home insurance policy, I think we are good. And definitely good investments, saving for those days when we need them the most. So planning is required. You cannot lead a life without planning your personal finance. Most people ignore it because they think we will manage it sometime, someday. But most people procrastinate. The sooner you take the decisions to, put things in the right perspective, it will help you that much because it's really, really critical. We're talking about your hard-earned money. And the sooner you decide about how you want to plan your journey, the better it is. Your future depends on your decision made today, basically.
I love that. That's wonderful. And I agree with you. I'm a little biased. I come from the insurance industry, but I think insurance is at the core of a sound financial plan because it forms that foundation. And when you talk about emergency fund, I don't think people really think of an emergency fund as an insurance policy, for their cash flow. And, because really it's a short-term disability policy or short-term, whatever policy, transition policy, if you lose your job or whatever, or face a high medical bill, that, an emergency fund really is insurance more than anything else. But we don't think that way, that it's protecting you against a risk. So that's awesome advice.
Again, it all is because of a mindset. A lot of people feel when they're paying their insurance premium, I'm just wasting money. It's not wasting money. I talk out of my personal life experience. Insurance has really helped my family. Like my mom's stressed with cancer, or my dad-in-law stressed with cancer. Every time, because we had health insurance, we don't have that financial burden on our heads. We can focus on treatment rather than, the money aspect of it. Because we were disciplined enough to pay year after year, we get the money that we need when we really need it the most. I think we would have been blessed if nothing like this happened. The disease did not happen. But at least since we planned, we are better off as we speak, isn't it?
Definitely. Well, and to go right back to the very beginning is, you said life is full of surprises, and some are good and some are challenging. So you have to be prepared for all those things. So Namrata, where can people learn more about you? Where can they connect with you?
So I have my website. It's called aceinvestment.in. And I'm also there on LinkedIn, Instagram, even on Twitter. I am there with my own name, Namrata Singh. So people can reach me out on any of these handles.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And for everybody watching or listening, as usual, I'll put Namrata's contact information in the show notes, so you can reach out to her or follow her on Twitter and LinkedIn and see what she's up to. Namrata, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Tony. It has been a pleasure, and we're really grateful. I'm really, really grateful for people like you who are literally thinking about women in finance and, probably leading the cause for women in finance, which is so, so important.
Well, I think we support each other, is that if we really want to help create financial wellness, financial literacy for everyone, is that we have to talk to everyone and then listen to them. And that's what I love the most about what you do, is that you're mission driven, you're client driven, and trying to solve, what our clients need solving rather than just, product oriented. So I love your work and what you stand for. So this has been fantastic.
Thanks for the feedback. That makes me happy. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. And I would urge everyone to check out Namrata's website, even if you're not in India, just to see how she talks about her mission, because I think it's good for all of us to understand how you can be mission driven in your practice and how that benefits clients. So Namrata, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for tuning into this episode of the Tony Steuer Podcast. Until next time.